Another mango story. I picked up the brown paper bag that lay on the Morris chair. Do you remember the Morris chair? And I began to stuff it with mangoes. I selected two Ceylon mangoes, a mango rose, two starch mangoes, and I threw in a beef mango, just in case. That was not enough. Now the beef mango would satisfy anyone, and we sometimes call it a bellyful mango. It satisfied anyone just the way the fruit like the grapefruit called jug jug used to satisfy people. You eat one and you're ready to go. I slipped on my bathing pants and headed for the nearby Grandin's beach carrying the bag of mangoes. I took the little shortcut near the spot where Silver Sands Hotel once stood. I often used the steps there to dust off sand from my feet after my sea bath. It was early in the morning and the air was fresh. The unmistakable scent of seaweed filled the air. I spotted a kokioko tree at the far end of the beach. A number of beautifully adorned seashells lined the sandy shore. They looked so attractive lying on the sand. One peek at the seashells and Mother Nature's unmatched craftsmanship became so evident. The shells were obviously pushed to the shore by the waves that splashed throughout the night. They were the type of shells the tourists loved. They were often seen on the covers of specially made spice baskets and ornaments the vendors sold to the visitors. I carefully chose some of the shells and placed them in the brown paper bag. Now, after picking a spot for the bag, I nestled myself between the roots of the manjaline tree. Now, the manjaline tree, which we pronounce manjaline, spelled Manchinnwl, manjaline. We say manjaline, is a dangerous tree. It bears a small green fruit that is poisonous. It looks appealing to the eye. Now, a milky substance that oozes from it is known to blister the skin, and many people knew that it caused blindness. You have to be very careful with that. There were stories of tourists who mistakenly took the fruit for an edible delight and subsequently paid the price for their ignorance. Nevertheless, it was my habit to sit beneath the manjaline tree and relax before taking a header or a belly flap in the water. I used to sit under the manjaline tree and study when I was preparing for the GCE exam. I used to study right there, and I never got affected by the fruit. So I sat there and I stared at the sand crabs as they darted in and out of their holes. Some came close to me and stood motionless with their gundies. We call it the gundi, the claw, ajar. And they observed me. One slight motion and they all scampered off. I look at some of them as they struggled when caught in the waves that bathed the shoreline. They anchored their legs in the sand for support and waited until the waves retreated. I stared at them, and they stared at me. They cleaned their eyes. You ever see them do that? I love looking at the sand crabs. Sometimes I pick them up and I held them in my hands. I never took a chance with the big land crabs that live in the holes, or even the reddish ones I used to spot near Gleen's jetty in Lagoon Road, now called Grenadian Boulevard, and again was once called the Mang. The big land crabs were the ones my relatives used to take and make crab back. You ever had crab back? No, great patience was needed to remove the meaty parts from the crab. And when one sat down to devour the meal served in the same back of the crab, the taste buds rejoiced. The palates rejoiced. I remember the time we had a big crocus bag filled with land crabs in our kitchen. Somehow they all escaped and we managed to catch a few and to run from some. We had caught them in Wester Hall one rainy night. Now when heavy rains flooded their holes, they all came out. Sometimes we took a flashlight, and shined the light right into their eyes. They stopped in their tracks, just like the manaco, the opossum. We then picked them up with care. No one wanted his or her finger to be caught in the crab's little gundy. You see the little one? Now the big gundy might harmlessly, depending on how big it is, might harmlessly span your wrist. But the little one, papayo, boy, when that made contact with your finger, crab will smoke your pipe. There were a few brave souls who used to push their hands deep in the crab holes and pull out the crab. I knew a fella from River Road who did that often. But I still shudder when I reflect on the thought. Now as I sat and I stared at the sand crabs, I wondered why so many creatures were afraid of humans. I used to see birds perch themselves on top of the backs of cows in Woodlands, Happy Hill, and Woburn. But I am yet to see a wild bird do the same on someone's back, well, except that person trained the bird. Well, it is true. A truism, of course, that monkey know which tree to climb. Sometimes in my writing, I tend to use the proper grammar, what people call proper grammar, the King's English. I remember when I did my first book, and I had a book event at the GBSS auditorium, and I said, monkey knows what tree to climb. And Dr. Alexis said, no boy, monkey know what tree to climb. We got to keep it authentic, yes. Anyway, monkey know what tree to climb. The sand crabs often ran away as soon as someone appeared. So I look at a bag of mangoes. You may wonder, this man started talking about mangoes and he's talking about crab now. But that's what I do. I looked at a bag of mangoes and debated whether I should bathe first and then suck the mangoes. You don't say eat them, suck the mangoes, or wash them in seawater and begin to devour them and savor their taste. Now, there's a popular calypso with the words, when it comes to eating, when they eat like a Viking. When it comes to eating, When you're eating, eat like a Viking. I know some fellas like to hear that, eh? Exactly what I usually did to the mangoes. Boy, I used to eat like a Viking. Now, a number of black ants, I don't know who called them, a number of black ants had crawled into the bag. Put the bag down and the black ants, well, nobody invited them, they crawled right into the bags. I took out the mangoes and dusted the bag before placing it in another spot close to the tree. I didn't see any black ants there. Ants. I did not have the stomach of a man in Brooklyn who used to eat anything, a Grenadian man. I remember one time I told him, I said, man, I hear us eat anything, you're eating all kind of head. He said to me, yeah, boy, it will season you up by eating you too. I said, what, boy, you serious? But I knew he was joking. So it was time to head for the water. Okay, you're getting tired? Wait, man, I'm coming to the conclusion. It was time to head to the water. I took my hand and touched the water. I made the sign of the cross. We usually used to do that, making the sign of the cross. I don't know if people do that still when they go to the sea or before they touch the water. A custom that we grew up with. Many of the customs are slightly, you might see them existing still, but there are many disappeared or are disappearing. But making the sign of the cross, that was an automatic gesture. Well, the water was cold, and whenever that was the case, I stood there and made all kind of simmy-dimmy, and that of our nice words, simmy-dimmy, all kind of signs, making those signs like a guy called Mandrake used to make in the crossroad up in Florida, St. John. So I jumped around and I passed my hands in the water, but I was reluctant to plunge in. Sometime I even tasted the water in time before, but I dreaded the coldness on my back. So I just stood there and made a puppy show of myself. Then I felt it was time to take a header, man, jump into the water. Dive. I had played around too long. A big man like I was, should not be afraid to jump in the cold water to take a header. So I dived in, and I stayed below for a little while, holding my breath. I moved slowly along the bottom. It was a nice feeling. Nice, well, so nice, and I thought of the mangoes that I would devour. I even made a little dog swim. You ever made a dog swim? I wondered why I had wasted that entire time, so much time, making a boboli of myself before taking that dive. I should just come in and just go right in. And then I looked in the direction of a tree where I had put the brown paper bag containing the mangoes and the shells. The mango was gone. The bag of mangoes was gone. Boy, it was then something hit home. I knew why them animals did not trust humans. They were right. Anthony Wendell, the Riggs.